Imposter syndrome. How do you know if you belong in the room that you've chosen, or how do you make yourself believe that you belong in that room or at the table that you're at, or whatever saying you want to have? This is something I've dealt with for a long time. And this is going to be a more conversational video because I don't have anything planned out. I don't know what I'm going to say for this. This is just something that's been on my mind, something that Jessica and I have been talking about lately. So I'm just going to ramble and see what happens. That's why we used to call this the ramblings. I am tired. It is tax season. It is very much tax season and I'm tired. It's all going very well. Happy for all the work that we have. Very blessed. We have a lot of systems that are just making this way easier than it has been in the past. But even still, it's a lot of work. But I'm thankful for my clients and I'm thankful for my team, and everything's good. Everything's great. So I got out of the habit, not out of the habit, but I got out of the flow of recording these on Friday like I normally do for the following week. And so it is Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. I'm trying to get this recorded and edited and scheduled so that it can post on Thursday the next day. Hopefully I can actually make that happen. But let's talk about imposter syndrome. Every time in my whole career that I have been promoted or put into a new role or something, I've always felt like I didn't deserve it. Like I was promoted past where I should be and I tricked someone into believing that I knew what I could do or knew what I was doing. And I feel like I was successful in the roles that I was in. And so looking back, I can say, oh, okay, no, maybe I knew what I was doing, but I just can't shake this feeling in the moment that I just don't belong in whatever role that I'm in or that I have what it takes. And it constantly feels like I'm faking it until I make it. You know what I mean? And I think everyone feels this. I think I see this a lot in the author community. For me, as an accountant, what I've found helps a little bit is recognizing that I am immersed in business and accounting. And so, and taxes and all that. And so the information that I get is, gosh, how do I want to say it? I, I read things from people who are way smarter than I am. You know what I mean? So like whenever I'm thinking about me doing a tax return, let's say, and there's a complicated situation on it, I know a lot of really smart CPAs who know the answer to the thing that I might be struggling with or that I might have to do some extra research on. And it's just because maybe that's their expertise or they have more experience in that area. But that doesn't mean that I can't prepare the tax return. It just means I need more information and I know where to find it. I think the same thing's true for authors. Like, you know how to craft a story, you know how to write a book, you know how to do all the things it is that you do with writing, but you're comparing yourself to other authors. Maybe you've heard other authors talk about, elements of plot, and you've talked about all these things that maybe you don't quite understand, or maybe you don't understand as well as you would like to. But I know just from experience, authors love conferences. Authors love learning. And so that means you're constantly putting yourself, oh, this is it. Okay, it's clicking. You're constantly putting yourself in front of people who you look up to, who you feel know more than you about the thing that you're learning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting yourself in front of them, right? Same thing for me. I'm constantly putting myself in front of and around other accountants and CPAs and financial people who I feel are smarter than I am because I want to learn from them. And you're doing the same thing as an author. But then what we end up doing is we take that mentality of knowing that there's all these people who may be smarter than us or may have more knowledge in a particular area than we do. And then we're applying that relationship, I guess, or that perspective to everything else. And we're saying, well, gosh, I am not the smartest person in the world, and so I shouldn't be doing anything. And I know it doesn't make sense, but like I think that's how we do it. We are learners, and so we put ourselves around people who know more than us, and so then we constantly feel like the dumbest person in the room, right? That's actually helped me. So a little bit of a sidebar here. That's helped me in my career because whenever, gosh, I think I already told this story, but I'll tell it again because I think all of 20 people watch these videos. Um, when I worked at the bank, I was a young CFO. I was 30 years old and I was the chief financial officer at this bank. And I was working alongside these guys and ladies who had been there for decades. Like a lot of these people had been in banking for longer than I'd been alive. And it was expected that I would ask questions, and that was a huge asset. I think it was Simon Sinek in an interview who said something about how one of his biggest assets was being okay with being the dumbest person in the room or something like that. And the idea was, I saw this at the bank, like I'd be at a conference table and somebody would bring up something with, interest rate risk and economic monetary policy and all these like complicated assumptions. And I'd ask questions because it was expected that I would ask questions. What I found was when I asked those questions, a lot of the people who had been doing this for decades would say things like, huh, that's a good question. We hadn't thought of that. Yeah. And they would ask the same question. And so I realized, oh, no one knows. Not that they didn't know what they were doing, but the questions that I had were things that maybe they had wondered and they didn't feel comfortable asking the question, or maybe they just had a different perspective and didn't realize that it was a question that could be asked. So, gosh, how did I get on this topic? So yeah, we put ourselves in rooms where we feel like we are not the authority, where we are the dumbest person in the room so that we can learn. But then whenever we go to apply what we've learned to the thing that we're doing, whether it's a tax return, bookkeeping, advisory, writing a book, doing any kind of author services, whatever, we're still in that mentality of dumbest person in the room, right? So I don't know. I think maybe it's just a matter of saying, hey, look, just like when Jessica teaches the kids, she has a lot of people ask her about homeschooling and saying that because we homeschool our 5 kids, in case if you're new to the channel. Anyway, so we homeschool our 5 kids, and Jessica will have a lot of people ask her about homeschooling, and they'll say things like, oh, I couldn't do that. I'm not smart enough to homeschool. And the thing Jessica says a lot is like, oh, all you have to know is a little bit more than they know, right? Like, you don't have to be a mathematician to teach 3rd grade math. You just have to know like addition and subtraction, maybe a little bit of multiplication. Like you only need to know a little bit more than what you need to do the thing that you're doing. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to all this, and I don't know what the purpose of this video is, but it's something that's on my mind just because I don't know, something relevant lately. Jesse and I were talking about it because Sarah Cannon over in her group, she had posted something about imposter syndrome and had a really good exercise for coming up with a alter ego. Is it, gosh, some pop store? I'm drawing a blank. I can't remember what pop store it is and I feel terrible. There's some pop store who has an alter ego. God, Jessica's going to kill me if she sees this because she had a whole conversation about it. Create an alter ego with a name. And I remember the name of the alter ego. It's Sasha Fierce. If you know who it is that I'm supposed to be talking about, like put it in the comments. I could just Google it, but this is funnier, I think. So she made this alter ego that she named Sasha Fierce, I think. And the idea is that's the person that she gets into the mind of whenever she needs to be the person she feels she isn't, whenever she needs to kind of like stand up for herself and maybe be more experienced. And I love that. And at the same time, I saw something where Bryan Cranston, the dude who played Walter or Walt in Breaking Bad, I guess his daughter is an actress. She was on the red carpet. Interviewer was asking her, the interviewer said something like, your dad, Bryan, is always giving you advice on acting, but what about the red carpet? This is one of your first times on the red carpet. What kind of advice did he give you for this? And the advice that Bryan Cranston gave his daughter was create a character that is someone who is good at the red carpet. And I love that so much. Like this idea of whatever situation you're in, just create a character that's already good at that. And that's really cool for acting because like that's their job, is to get into character for someone that they're not. And so you're just playing a character. But for writers, it's so cool because you create the characters. Actors are given the characters and they have to put their own thing in it. But like as a writer, you create characters all the time. So how cool is it that you can just say, okay, this situation that I'm in calls me to be maybe more extroverted than I'm comfortable with, or maybe more confident than I'm comfortable with. And so I'm going to create a character for a person who has those traits and get into their mind and actually like play that character in real life. And I love that. And Sarah Cannon actually had the people who were going through her thing come up with that alter ego, give the person a name, give them traits, come up with like who that person is that you need to kind of put on whenever you're doing something that you're not comfortable with, that you feel maybe that imposter syndrome about. So, checking to see how much time I've been talking. If this is long enough, because I'm running out of things to say. So here's my thing. I have been a CPA for what now, 15 years, over 15 years. I was in public accounting for about a decade. I was a CFO of a $400 million bank I've been running my own CPA practice now for, gosh, 3 years full time, I think, almost 4 years full time, and then a couple of years part time. I know what I'm doing. Like I've done the things. And in the beginning, I still felt like I wasn't advanced enough to be able to take on advanced projects. I need to stay with the simple stuff because it was easier. And I'm recognizing now that that's not necessarily the case. And the more difficult projects I take on, I'm finding the more comfortable I actually am in my abilities and seeing what it is I can do. So for me, the the solution to imposter syndrome wasn't feeling like I belonged so that I'd be comfortable being in the room. It was going into the room first to find out that I belonged. Just as a really simple example, whenever I was the CFO of the bank, I was part of this group of CFOs. This was, I don't know, 15 or 20 people who we would meet on a quarterly basis in person. And it was CFOs from different banks from around the state that I'm in. Really, really smart people. And it's so interesting because every CFO had like their own personality in how they managed their bank or how they did things. And the first several meetings that I went to with that CFO group, I didn't say a word. I just listened and I took notes because it was just such a wealth of information in that room. And I started to understand, oh, this is what they're doing with their banks, or these are the kinds of things that I need to be focusing on. But then after a few meetings, topics started coming up that I was comfortable with, that I knew the information about. And so I started sharing. And I remember there was one meeting in particular where I said, oh, well, I read this guidance. I forgot what it was about, but I read this guidance. And in my opinion, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And so what we're doing at our bank is XYZ. And as I was saying it, I noticed these other CFOs who they had no idea that I was brand new and didn't know what I was talking about, but they all took out their pens and started taking notes. And that was such a cool feeling to realize, oh, I figured something out. I had this information that was something that they found was valuable enough to make a note of to remember later. But I had to be in the room first. I had to be at the table first. I had to speak up first before even realizing that I had something of value to offer to that room, to offer to those people. Because otherwise, if I had waited until I felt comfortable, until I felt like, oh, I know what I'm doing, I never would have said anything. And I just always would have waited. So it's kind of like they say, what is it? You don't wait for motivation before acting. You act and then the motivation comes after, or something like that. I don't know. Like you have to take action first and then you start feeling motivated to do it. And if you wait to feel motivated, you'll just never do it. I don't know. I'm botching it. Tell me what you think. Do you feel imposter syndrome? Is this something that you deal with? And when you do, have you found anything that's helped you deal with that? Anything that's helped you kind of get past imposter syndrome and actually feel comfortable doing what it is that you want to be doing? Now I am off to take all the ums and ahs out of this thing, create a thumbnail and get this thing posted, and I will see you next time.